This is KWCH 12 Eyewitness News this morning.
Coronavirus has now infected more than 10 million people worldwide, coming up the impact it is still having on the U.S. And Boeing could take a major step forward today in its bid to get its 737 MAX plane in the skies. What's expected to happen? But first, hot and humid weather is here to stay for the next few days. Let's get right to meteorologist Jake Dunn. Good morning, Jake. New numbers from Johns Hopkins University show coronavirus infections in the United States are well over 2.5 million. The death toll is now at 125,000. That's more than a quarter of the total deaths from the virus worldwide. 36 states, including Kansas, are seeing a rise in cases. And as Laura Podesta reports, this is forcing some states to scale back reopening. Today, we expect new statewide COVID-19 numbers from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. Here's where things stand right now. KDHE reported 568 new cases last Friday. That's the biggest increase since the state started releasing data 3 days per week. On Friday, the state announced 3 more deaths from coronavirus, bringing the state total to 264. There were 46 new hospitalizations out of the 1,100 plus KDHE is tracking. The state has also ramped up testing. About 57 out of every 1,000 Kansans are getting tested. Around 8% of those tests have come back positive. Today, you can go get yourself checked for COVID-19 at a mobile testing site in Sedgwick. Here's the details. The testing is being offered at the Colwich Fire Department from 9 a.m. until noon. And on Wednesday, you can get tested at Pathways Church in Goddard. This event also runs from 9 a.m. until noon. If you would like to take a test, you can call 211 to make an appointment, although it's not required. Today, the FAA could begin certification testing on Boeing 737 MAX planes. The agency sent a letter to Congress informing lawmakers it completed a review of Boeing's safety system assessment. The review cleared the way for the certification process to begin. The FAA says the test will likely include some mid-air maneuvering, like turns and some touch-and-go landings. The test will happen over Washington State. Boeing just resumed production on the jets last month. The planes were grounded in March of 2019 following 2 deadly crashes. 346 people were killed. Moving forward in campaign 2020 news, votes cast by mail are expected to set a new record this November because of the pandemic. Usually Americans head to the polls on Election Day and then tune in for the results later that night. But this year it's taking days or even weeks for some states to announce winners because of absentee ballot requests. Voters do not want to stand in line and risk their health. As of this morning, we are still waiting on results from the primaries last week in Kentucky and New York. Former Homeland Security Secretary Tom Ridge says this may be a sign of what's to come this fall, but efforts are being made to give Americans more options for voting.
But I think it's better that we do it right than to do it quick. The irony of the pandemic crisis is that we might actually enhance, improve, elevate the number of people who actually go to the polls to vote.
A recent nonpartisan study found it could cost at least $4 billion to make voting as safe and accessible as possible this fall. Of that, at least $1.4 billion would be needed to expand voting by mail options to every eligible voter. Senior counsel for President Trump's campaign weighed in on voting by mail on CBS's 60 Minutes last night. Justin Clark says vote by mail is less secure than voting in person. He says there have been several instances this year where ballots were mailed to different places. Democrats want to expand mail-in voting, but President Trump says that will only open the door to fraud. 60 Minutes' Bill Whitaker asked Clark about the president's voter fraud claim.
The president votes by mail.
The president votes absentee. That's different. If you are absent, you're ill, you're out of state, you name it, there needs to be a mechanism whereby people can get their vote cast. And by the way, President Obama did it, President Bush did it. It's not uncommon.
Exactly. It's not uncommon.
Absentee voting. Universal vote by mail is very different. It's a very different thing.
Sounds like a distinction without much of a difference.
The difference is the volume. The volume of live ballots being mailed out to people without the signature check, without the signature match, without the signing of the outer envelope.
Clark says the push for vote by mail 4 months before an election is a recipe for disaster. And in case you missed it, we now know the dates and locations for the 3 presidential debates. The first debate is scheduled for September 29th at the University of Notre Dame in Indiana. The second debate is October 15th at the Adrian Arch Center for the Performing Arts in Miami. And the third debate is the following week on October 22nd at Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. President Trump and Joe Biden will receive their formal invitations to participate in the debates after they accept their parties' nomination at the conventions in August.